A wedding freezes mid-vow when a dirty, barefoot homeless girl storms the aisle and drags a tech billionaire groom away from the altar, demanding just 30 seconds. What follows is a shocking exposure of lies, stolen millions, and a silenced whistleblower. As guests watch in horror, power collapses and truth explodes in public. This gripping story reveals how one brave child, armed only with courage and truth, destroys an empire and changes her fate forever. Hey family, welcome to Real Life Heart Stories. Please subscribe and give this video a like. It truly means the world to us. Don't forget to share it with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thank you so much for the support. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. The church doors slammed open with a violent bang that made chandeliers tremble, and before anyone could breathe, a small barefoot girl sprinted down the aisle, her dirty dress clinging to her thin frame, her face streaked with sweat and grime, her breathing loud and uneven. The wedding music collapsed into a shrill squeal as the organist stopped mid-note, guests twisting in their seats with sharp gasps as the girl's eyes locked on the groom. "You!" she screamed, her voice cutting through silk dresses and polished suits like glass. Ethan Cole, the tech billionaire CEO, groom of the hour, froze as the girl reached him, grabbed his sleeve with both hands, and pulled hard. "Come with me. Now," she demanded. "I need 30 seconds. A woman near the front whispered, "Is this part of the ceremony?" Another guest hissed, "Security." The bride stood motionless, bouquet shaking in her hands. Ethan yanked his arm back. "Get away from me," he snapped, his smile strained and furious. The girl didn't let go. "If you don't come," she said, her voice suddenly low and deadly calm, "everyone here will know who you really are." The church went silent, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. Ethan laughed nervously, glancing at the crowd. "This is insane," he said loudly. "I've never seen this child in my life." The bride turned to him, confusion breaking her perfect smile. "Ethan?" she whispered. "What is she talking about?" The girl looked up at him, her eyes wet but unblinking. "You promised my mom you'd protect her," she said. "Then you destroyed her." Murmurs rippled through the pews. "Her mom?" someone muttered. "What is she saying?" Ethan bent down, teeth clenched. "Listen," he whispered harshly. "You don't understand what you're doing." The girl leaned closer. "I understand everything," she whispered back. "You stole, you lied, and you left us on the street." His face drained of color. She pulled again, harder, forcing him to stumble one step forward. 30 seconds, she repeated. "If I'm lying, I'll disappear forever." The bride's voice cracked. "Ethan, answer her." He hesitated just a moment, but the hesitation was enough. Cameras lifted. Phones began recording. Ethan swallowed hard, straightened his suit and said, "Fine, 30 seconds." As the girl dragged him toward the side door, the guests sat frozen, unaware that the wedding they came to witness had just ended. If this opening pulled you in, pause right now, like the video, subscribe, and comment. The heavy church doors shut behind them with a dull thud, cutting off the whispers and stunned gasps. And the sudden quiet made Ethan's breathing sound too loud. He ripped his arm free and spun around, his face twisted with anger and fear. "What is wrong with you?" he snapped. "Do you have any idea where you are?" The girl stood her ground, small but unshaking. "I know exactly where I am," she said. "You don't." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, trying to steady himself. "This wedding cost more than your entire life," he said coldly. "You've embarrassed me in front of powerful people." The girl's eyes burned. "You embarrassed my mom when you fired her," she shot back. Ethan laughed sharply. "I've fired thousands of employees. That means nothing." The girl took one step closer. Her name was Lila Morgan. The sound of his name echoed in the hallway as if the walls themselves had heard it. Ethan froze. "That's not possible," he said quickly. "I don't know anyone by that name." The girl reached into the pocket of her torn dress and pulled out an old phone with a cracked screen, holding it up like a weapon. She worked in your finance division, she said. She found the fake accounts you used to move money. She told you she was going to report it. Ethan's eyes flicked from the phone to the security camera mounted above them. You should give that to me, he said, lowering his voice. Whatever you think you have, it's not worth this. The girl shook her head. You said that to my mom too, she replied. You said if she stayed quiet, everything would be fine. Her voice cracked. Then you fired her, blacklisted her. We lost our house. Ethan's jaw tightened. People lose jobs every day, he said. That's business. The girl's fists clenched. She lost her health, she said. She got sick. And when she died, I was alone. Ethan staggered back a step, pressing his hand to the wall. She wasn't supposed to die, he muttered. The girl's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed firm. But she did, she said. And you were still rich. The muffled sound of voices grew louder behind the doors. Ethan glanced over his shoulder, panic creeping in. What do you want from me? He asked. The girl lifted the phone and tapped the screen. I want you to tell the truth, she said. Out there. To everyone. Ethan shook his head violently. That would destroy everything I built. The girl's lips trembled into a sad smile. You already destroyed us. A hand reached for the door handle. Ethan grabbed her wrist. Wait, he whispered. Please. She pulled free. 30 seconds are over, she said softly. Now they hear everything. The doors opened, and the weight of the room crashed back onto them. 100 faces turning at once as Ethan and the girl stepped into the aisle. The silence so deep it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. The bride rushed forward, her eyes glossy with fear. Ethan, she whispered, gripping his arm. What is going on? Before he could answer, the girl stepped ahead of him, standing between wealth and power like a wall that refused to move. He lied to all of you, she said clearly, her small voice carrying through the church. Gasps erupted. A man in the front row stood up. This is outrageous, he said. Ethan shouted, Stop this right now. But the girl raised the phone, her hand shaking. He stole money from his own company, she continued. He hid it in fake accounts and blamed workers when it was discovered. Murmurs turned into angry whispers. Is that true? That's impossible. He's a billionaire. Ethan lunged for the phone, but the girl pressed play. His recorded voice echoed through the church, sharp and unmistakable. If you say a word, I'll make sure you never work again. The sound hit like a slap. People stood. Phones flew into the air, recording everything. The bride staggered back as if struck. Ethan? She whispered, her voice breaking. Is that you? His mouth opened, but no words came out. The priest lowered his head, murmuring, Dear God. A woman cried, How could you? Security guards hesitated, unsure who to protect. The girl kept speaking, her tears falling freely now. My mom lost her job, she said. We lost our home. She got sick from stress and exhaustion while he planned this wedding like nothing happened. Ethan fell to his knees, clutching his head. I didn't mean for any of this, he cried. I was protecting my company. The girl looked down at him. You were protecting yourself, she said. The bride ripped the veil from her hair and threw it to the floor. You told me you were honest, she sobbed. You promised me a future built on truth. Ethan reached for her, desperate. I can explain. She stepped back sharply. Don't touch me, guests shouted. Call the police. This is disgusting. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Security finally moved, pulling Ethan to his feet. The girl stood still as chaos erupted around her. The bride turned to her, eyes red and steady. What's your name? She asked gently. The girl swallowed. Maya. The bride nodded slowly. Thank you, Maya, she said. You saved me. As handcuffs clicked around Ethan's wrists, the church filled with noise, but Maya felt only silence inside, because for the first time, the truth had been heard. By the time night fell, the video had already spread across the world like wildfire. Clips of the barefoot girl dragging a billionaire groom down the aisle played on every screen. Phones, televisions, billboards in city squares. Headlines flashed non-stop. Wedding halted by homeless child. Tech titan exposed in church scandal. 30 seconds that ended an empire. Maya sat on a cold park bench outside a closed cafe, watching the story repeat on a small TV through the glass. She pulled her knees to her chest as people passed by, some slowing down, some pointing. "That's her," a woman whispered. A man stopped and offered her a sandwich. "You're brave," he said quietly. Maya nodded but didn't answer. Brave wasn't what she felt. She felt empty. Her phone buzzed over and over. Unknown numbers, messages piling up. "We want your story. You exposed corruption. You're a hero." Maya turned the phone face down. "Mom," she whispered, staring at the dark sky. "I did what you couldn't." Across the city, Ethan Cole sat alone in a holding cell, his expensive suit wrinkled, his hands trembling as the noise of reporters echoed through concrete walls. "A child," he muttered, staring at the floor. "A dirty little child ruined everything." His lawyer's voice replayed in his head. "The evidence is overwhelming." The wedding ring lay forgotten in his pocket. Meanwhile, Maya was taken to a shelter by a social worker who spoke gently, as if afraid Maya might disappear if spoken to too loudly. She was given clean clothes, a warm meal, and a bed with real sheets. "You're safe here," the woman said. Maya nodded slowly, unsure how to believe it. Outside, cameras waited, flashing through the windows like lightning. Inside, Maya curled under the blanket, her body finally relaxing. For the first time in months, she slept without fear of being kicked awake. The world was watching now, but for one quiet night, Maya rested, knowing the truth was finally louder than the lies. If you're still here, like the video and comment "Truth wins," because the consequences are just beginning. The days that followed felt heavier than the years Maya had spent on the streets. Cameras waited outside the shelter every morning, their lenses following her every move as reporters shouted questions. "How did you know? Were you scared? Did someone help you?" Maya kept her head down, gripping her backpack tight. Inside interview rooms, bright lights burned her eyes as adults leaned forward, expecting big words and powerful speeches. "I just told the truth," Maya said simply. Some nodded with respect. Others frowned, wanting more drama. Online, the world argued. "She's lying. She's a hero. This is staged." Maya scrolled through comments one night and burst into tears. "Why are they so angry?" she asked the social worker. The woman sighed. "Because truth makes people uncomfortable," she said gently. Donations flooded in, money raised in Maya's name by strangers she had never met. Offers came too: book deals, documentaries, speaking tours. "You could change your life," one man said eagerly. Maya shook her head. "I don't want to be famous," she replied. "I just wanted people to know what he did." One afternoon, a familiar figure stood at the shelter door, the bride. She looked smaller without the gown, her eyes tired. "May I come in?" she asked. Maya nodded. They sat across from each other in silence. "I almost married him," the woman said finally, her voice breaking. "I loved a lie." Maya looked at her. "You didn't know," she said quietly. The bride swallowed hard. "But you did. And you saved me." She reached out, hesitated, then gently squeezed Maya's hand. "Thank you." Across town, Ethan's court hearings began. Evidence stacked up: financial records, recordings, witness statements. His lawyer rubbed his temples. "There's no way out," he admitted. The girl's evidence destroyed every defense. Ethan stared ahead, hollow-eyed. "She ruined me," he muttered. The lawyer shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "You ruined yourself." Outside the courthouse, people gathered with signs reading justice for Lila and listened to whistleblowers. Maya watched the news coverage from a shelter TV, her heart pounding as Ethan was led in, surrounded by guards. She didn't cheer. She didn't smile. She just whispered, "Mom, they believe us." Justice was loud and public, but it came with weight, and Maya felt every ounce of it. The The foundation was announced on a quiet morning, almost as if the world wanted to be gentle for once. A simple headline appeared on the screen: Lila Morgan Foundation launches to protect whistleblowers. Maya stared at the words, her chest tightening. She had never imagined her mother's name would be spoken with respect instead of fear. At the small opening ceremony, Maya stood behind a wooden podium that felt too big for her hands. Rows of chairs were filled with people who looked at her not with curiosity, but with understanding. "My mom believed in doing the right thing," Maya said, her voice trembling but clear. She believed that telling the truth mattered, even when it was scary. The room was silent, every ear listening. "She lost everything for it," Maya continued. "This foundation is so no one else has to lose everything just for being honest." Applause filled the room, rising slowly, warmly, until Maya had to blink back tears. After the event, people lined up to speak with her. Former employees, quiet workers, people who had been afraid to talk for years. "Your mom gave me courage," one woman whispered. Maya nodded, unsure what to say, but feeling something inside her lift. That night, she sat on the shelter's front steps, the air cool against her face. The city lights no longer felt threatening. "We made it," she whispered into the dark. "You didn't lose for nothing." For the first time, she felt proud without guilt. Her past still hurt, but it didn't control her anymore. Ethan's trial dragged on, each day stripping away more of his power. Testimony after testimony painted the same picture: greed, threats, silence bought with fear. When the verdict finally came, Maya watched from a quiet room. "Guilty on all counts," the judge said. Ethan didn't look angry. He looked empty. As he was led away, cameras flashed, but the world barely reacted anymore. His story was old news. Maya's was just beginning. A week later, she walked into a classroom for the first time in years. Kids whispered, but a girl smiled and slid a chair over. "Sit here," she said. Maya smiled back, heart racing. She wasn't invisible anymore. She wasn't homeless. She was just a kid with a future, and for the first time that future felt real. The sentencing day arrived quietly, without drama, as if the world had already decided it was finished with Ethan Cole. The courtroom was full, yet strangely calm. No shouting, no chaos, just the heavy weight of consequences settling into place. Ethan stood when the judge entered, his shoulders slumped, his face pale and older than it had been only weeks before. The judge spoke slowly, clearly, listing crimes one by one: fraud, intimidation, obstruction, each word landing like a stone. Ethan stared straight ahead, barely blinking. When the sentence was read, there was no gasp from the room, no shock, only acceptance. The guard stepped forward, and as the handcuffs closed around his wrists, Ethan finally looked up. For a brief moment, his eyes searched the room, almost as if he expected to see Maya standing there. She wasn't. She didn't need to be. The truth had already done its work. In the back of the courtroom, a reporter whispered, "This is the end of an era," and it was. Outside, cameras flashed half-heartedly as Ethan was escorted into a vehicle. There were no cheers, no angry crowds, just a few people watching silently as the car drove away. His empire had fallen so completely that it no longer inspired rage, only a quiet lesson. Inside his cell that night, Ethan sat on the narrow bed and replayed the moment in the church again and again. The doors slamming open, the girl's voice, the phone playing his own words back to him. 30 seconds, he muttered bitterly. That's all it took. Regret pressed in, heavy and useless. For the first time in his life, money could not protect him, and power could not rewrite the truth. While Ethan faced silence, Maya faced something new: routine. School mornings, homework, laughter in hallways. At first, it felt unreal, like a life borrowed from someone else. She sat at her desk, listening, learning, raising her hand carefully. When a teacher asked her to read aloud, her voice shook, but she finished. The class clapped. She smiled, surprised at herself. At lunch, a boy asked, "Were you really at that wedding?" Maya nodded. "Yeah." He shrugged. "That was brave." No awe, no fear, just respect. Felt better than applause. Some nights, the memories still came back. The cold sidewalks, the hunger, her mother's tired smile, but they no longer crushed her. She had learned something powerful. Silence protects the wrong people, and truth doesn't need permission to exist. One evening, as she packed her bag for school, Maya paused and whispered, "We did it, Mom. Not with anger, not with pain, but with peace. Because the world had learned its lesson, and so had she." Years later, the church stood just as tall and quiet as it had on that unforgettable day, its stone walls warmed by afternoon sunlight. Maya stood across the street, hands tucked into the pockets of her jacket, watching guests arrive for another wedding. There were no cameras this time, no crowds, no whispers, just laughter and honest joy spilling onto the steps. She smiled softly, remembering how different everything had felt back then. How heavy the air had been, how fear had lived in every breath she took. 30 seconds, she murmured. That's all it took. She wasn't angry anymore. The moment no longer burned. It had settled into something steady, something strong. A reminder of who she was and what she had survived. Maya had grown, not just in years, but in confidence. The Lila Morgan Foundation had helped hundreds of workers speak out without losing their homes or their health. Maya often spoke at small events now, never dramatic, never loud. "You don't have to be powerful to tell the truth," she would say. "You just have to be willing." People listened, not because she was famous, but because she was real. That day, as the church bells rang, Maya turned away and walked down the street, her footsteps light. Somewhere inside the church, vows were being exchanged. Real ones, built on honesty instead of lies. That mattered to her more than revenge ever could. Ethan Cole's name rarely came up anymore. When it did, it was in textbooks, case studies, quiet warnings about unchecked power. He served his sentence in silence, no interviews, no comebacks. The world moved on. Maya did too. She had friends now, dreams, plans that stretched further than survival. She wanted to study law. "So I can help people like my mom," she once said. Her teachers nodded, not surprised. It made sense. That evening, Maya sat by her window, the city humming below. She pulled out the cracked phone, the same one she had carried into the church, and held it carefully. She didn't need it anymore, but she kept it as proof. Proof that truth matters. Proof that even the smallest voice can echo louder than wealth and power combined. She placed it back in the drawer and smiled. Because one day, a poor homeless girl had walked into a room full of lies and refused to be quiet. She had dragged the truth into the light, even when her hands were shaking. And the world had stopped, just long enough to listen. We've come to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories.